say Star Citizen gives you a lot of bang for your buck.
Thank you to RSI forum user Monk for the extremely cool explosion montage. Welcome to Around the Verse, your weekly look at Star Citizen's development. I'm Sandy Gardner, the VP of Marketing.
I'm Ben Lesnick. I work with the community to make sure you guys know what's going on.
And if you can't believe it, which I find it hard to believe, but this is our 99th episode of Around the Verse, coming up on 100.
It seems like just yesterday we were crammed into the corner of reception at the old office.
It does, and we kept moving into tighter and tighter spaces there until I think we were in half of somebody else's office, maybe yours. It was a very, very small space. So what do you think of the Drake Dragonfly?
It's really, really exciting to me for two reasons.
Hey citizens, welcome to another segment of ATV Behind the Scenes. My name is Forrest Steffen, CG Supervisor, and with me is...
Shane Hessler, Associate Character Artist.
And we've talked a lot about taking a character concept and getting it into the game. But for this segment, we're going to actually show you. And so Shane has actually taken a shirt for the PU and gone through the whole process. So we're going to walk you through it.
For clothing in my process, something that I like to start out my base with is a program called Marvelous Designer. So what we can get from this is kind of a start to the high poly asset for the game, where we can then project all the detail onto the low poly. So in this video, you can kind of see me pulling down on certain areas to get different variations of folds and volumes in the material. And something we have to consider with shirts and clothing itself is how it looks in a neutral pose for the character. So something that looks very natural and almost a neutral state that will work with animation and clothing that may be worn on top of it.
So once you're done in Marvelous, you export it out, you open it up in ZBrush. What's the next step? Do you check the scale? Do you have to decimate the mesh and then retopo it? Do you get to just start scanning on the mesh that gets exported? Like what exactly happens in between?
So what ZBrush allows us to do is basically take digital clay and sculpt it on the computer and get results instantly as far as sculpting folds, details, wrinkles, adding more geometry. When we import it to ZBrush, it should be the exact same scale as the male base model, which we're referencing the entire time.
So we always make sure, no matter what program it's in scale.
Yeah, if you're going down the pipeline and you lose scale, it's a very big hassle to scale it back down and make sure it fits your low poly geometry, which is in game. So the focus is always keeping the scale as it's going to be in game from start to finish.
Okay, so now you've taken it out of ZBrush, you've exported it out as like an OBJ.
Correct.
Yeah, once it's in Maya, you probably have a decimated mesh because I'd imagine 9 million polys is going to make Maya explode.
Yeah.
And so the decimation process is cutting the poly count 50%.
So I think we started at 9 million at the end of the high poly process, and then once it was reduced using a tool in ZBrush called decimation, we got it down to I think around 200,000 polygons.
Okay.
So my process is bringing in the high poly that I reduced down to, like I said, around 200,000 polygons. And with that mesh, I can reference the high poly inside of Maya to then trace on top of using a tool in Maya called Quad Draw, which allows us to plot points in space on the high poly from ZBrush and minimize the poly count, which is represented in kind of a grid format, using edges, faces, and vertexes.
So we've created the high poly, we've created the game topology, we've done our UVs, and now you've gone through, you bake all your maps in XNormal.
Correct.
And then once you're done with baking your maps in XNormal, you create a Photoshop file that has our textures.
Correct.
And so the first one is the normal map.
Yep.
And tell us a little bit about what a normal map does.
So a normal map takes a lot of the detail from your high poly and projects onto your low poly by controlling the way light hits your low poly geometry and how the light reflects and shades to your object.
So it basically kind of allows you to have shading on your topology without needing actual topology.
Right, it gives you the illusion of detail and shadow.
Awesome. And then so you can see actually the fold in there and all that. And then the next one is the gloss. And then the gloss is your roughness
Right,
map.
how kind of reflective the light is going off your material and how shiny or rough it is.
So we have a material in the engine, and the material has a set specular. And then this map will actually create a roughness for that specular value. So if you have a surface that's super white because it has a very hot highlight, you can increase the darkness of your gloss map and it will absorb, basically simulate heat, and it will distribute across the surface and kind of blend. So instead of having that nice specular highlight, it'll actually crawl across the surface a little more the darker you get your gloss. Okay, so now the final process, you bring it into the engine, and after you exported it out of Maya, you saved out your texture set from Photoshop, and then you create a material out of Maya, and then you have plugged in all your textures, and like magic, voila, you have a beautiful and it looks great.
Thank you.
So do you want to take us through anything particular?
So we can apply materials on our low polys by selecting the faces of the low poly. So that's why you see the lines we're getting. And in order to blend in the lines of the material, we use our blend map, which can kind of balance out where materials are applied.
Cool. And I think that pretty much wraps up the process of starting with a concept, starting with a vision, starting with an idea, taking it all the way through the pipeline into a final product. And I'm sure everyone's going to be excited to get this shirt now. So thank you, Shane, so much. Thank you for making the shirt. It looks fantastic. And thanks everybody for tuning in to another segment of ATV.
Hey there, Tyler Whitkin, Community Manager in the Austin, Texas studio, here to bring you this week's MVP. A huge congratulations to Romerick for creating and sharing a video that showcases all 26 of our subscriber hanger flare. This informative video is a go-to for anyone curious to see the hanger flare in action and learn more details about the different items you can obtain. So, congrats again to you, you're this week's MVP. Back to you guys.
We will see you around the verse.
Around the verse.